hoops with one of the experts locally, newsok.com and the Oklahomans, Darnell Mayberry. Time for some Thunder cover. What's up, Darnell?
What's going on, guys? How you doing today?
Not much. Man, I was reading this little thing that Barry Trammell put out today. Crazy to think that Scott Brooks, I don't think of Scott Brooks as a long-tenured coach, but when you look at the NBA as it is, Scott Brooks, I want to say the fifth most tenured coach in the entire NBA. I found that crazy, and I think I saw that over half the league's coaches have been on the job 15 months or less. I think of the NFL as a not-for-long coaches league, but maybe it's the NBA.
Yeah, it's trending that way. Who are the four coaches that have been in longer than Scotty? I haven't seen nothing yet.
Okay, you've got Greg Popovich. You got Doc Rivers at 2, Eric Spoelstra 3, Rick Carlisle 4, Scotty Brooks is 5th in the league. Lionel Hollins comes in at 6th, and then let's see, half the league coaches have been on the job less than 15 months. That's kind of crazy to me. A lot of shakeups in the coaching world in the NBA.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you look at the coaches that you named, look at those franchises. They're all stable. They all have had success, and Dallas is just kind of going through a rebuilding phase now, only because Mark Cuban wanted to sort of get ahead of his players aging, and so he had to try to blow that thing up before it got out of hand. But Miami, San Antonio, Boston, those are all franchises that are right there in the thick of it year in and year out at this point. So I think there's something to be said for maintaining that stability and consistency with your coach.
Some coaching changes in the NBA are going to happen that are going to have an effect on the Thunder next season. The Clippers are going to have a new coach. Denver's going to have a new coach. Possibly even the Grizzlies are going to have a new coach. The Clippers is the big one for me. Brian Shaw, they're going to interview him, and George Karl possibly even has been linked out there. Who do you think is going to be the next coach for the Clippers?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, they can go in so many different ways, and there's so many good candidates out there. George Karl, Lionel Hollins, Brian Shaw, everyone feels like he deserves an opportunity. Even a guy like Patrick Ewing, I don't think he'll be the coach of the Clippers, but, his name has been rumored for years. Jeff Van Gundy's just kind of sitting back and waiting for the right opportunity. There's so many coaches. I mean, I would think George Karl would probably have a leg up for that job with the success that he's had, getting things to the playoffs, not so much, winning once there, but he did make it to the finals with Seattle. So I think he's probably the best coach available at this point. I'd be not shocked if he doesn't end up in L.A., but I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up in L.A.
Totally agree, Darnell. I think he's the perfect fit right there. You obviously have a point guard in Chris Paul that really runs that, can run and gun, can run that style of offense that George Karl likes to run. You got the bigs right there with DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, high flyers. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to go there. Crazy, though, to think George Karl in his 9 years in Denver makes the playoffs every single year. Now, 8 of those 9 first-round exits. I think that might be the problem right there. But when we got that news yesterday, came out right before we got on air, I was shocked, Darnell. I don't know about you, but the man just won 57 games. They won 33 of 40 to close the season out. They lose Danilo Gallinari. They have no true superstar on that team, and they're the 3 seed coming out of the West. I know that they're an early exit. I just shocked right there in Denver that the NBA Coach of the Year gets fired right after the season.
Yeah, and I sort of agree with some of the national guys who have said sometimes you just need a new voice in there, and maybe that's what happened in Denver. But still, if he had 1 year left on his deal, you would think that what he did with that team this year and how he sort of gets those guys to respond, and just the style of play. I mean, they're a tough matchup for most teams in the league, and you have your hands full going up against the Denver Nuggets, and that's because George Karl puts those guys in positions to be successful. And the thing that really shocks me the most is it's not like there's someone out there that you can go get that's better than George Karl. That's the thing. I can understand if you feel like, okay, we haven't had the success that we should, or we need a new voice. Any of those reasons I'm totally fine with. But when there's not a guy out there that's actually better than the guy you're getting rid of, that's when I just sort of have to question what you're doing and your management.
I heard rumors that possibly it was tied to him not getting JaVale McGee involved enough in what they were doing. Have you heard that at all?
I saw someone on Twitter or something talk about that. I mean, that's laughable if that's the case. I couldn't even pay more than 2 seconds attention to that because JaVale McGee is, trust me, I follow the Wizards closely, and I know probably around here more than anybody the headaches that come with JaVale McGee. So if anybody from the front office or the ownership level felt like he needed to play JaVale McGee more, they need to basically resign because they don't know basketball. And JaVale McGee, I know he's making a lot of money, but he's not a guy that's going to win you a lot of games.
Signs a 4-year, $44 million contract last year. I think they overpaid for him. You talked about this the other day in an article, since we're talking bigs right here. Hasheem Thabeet, what do you see his role? Does his role, I think he definitely, did more than what people expected without question. I remember the day that they signed him, Darnell, I was kind of, it's a non-issue. This guy's not going to play here. He's not going to make an impact. Not that he made a huge impact, but I think that we can all agree he made strides this year, and credit that coaching staff for really working with him, honing in on his game. I think he superseded my expectations for him. Is his role going to expand any next year in year 2 for the Thunder?
It could, and you're seeing Kendrick Perkins' minutes sort of dwindle. He's still right around 20, 25, but he's playing less and less, and especially in the playoffs. So I think given the right matchup, they could throw Hasheem Thabeet out there a lot more. But Kendrick Perkins is still making a lot of money next season. They still love what he brings. So I would think that Kendrick Perkins would be the primary guy and the go-to guy at that position. But you can see that they're grooming Hasheem to sort of play more minutes down the line, and I think that was what they always had in mind when they brought him in, even though a lot of us on the outside laughed at it. And that's what I was trying to get across in the article, that this guy is someone who everyone basically wrote off this time last year, and now you're starting to see his progression, and he's able to make some strides, and he's turned into a serviceable center. You can tell that he has a place in this league.
I think we'll see that in the future, that he'll continue to contribute. I liked what he did this year, but I thought that you had the quote of the week. I think it was Wednesday. You said either the Spurs are either going to win it in 6 or the Heat are going to win it in 7. I think that was well said. I think that's what it's going to shake out to be. It looks like it's going to be a good series. We'll get into that on the other side. But I was thinking about it last night. I was like, man, I know he said that, and we were kind of gave him crap about it that he's got to pick one, but that looks like how close this series is going to be. I mean, it's hard to pick one.
It is going to be a close series. We'll get into that and more when we get back. This is Thunder Cover by NewsOK.com and the Oklahomans' Darnell Mayberry. Let's get back to talking some basketball. It's Thunder Cover with NewsOK.com and the Oklahomans' Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, last night post-game, obviously the Heat, 5 turnovers in that fourth quarter. Before that, they only had 3 the entire game. Didn't shoot the ball well. LeBron, D-Wade, pretty much ineffective in that fourth quarter. Chris Bosh, virtually ineffective the entire night outside of a couple of, mid-range jumpers. But, I listened to the post-game, and I listened to LeBron, I listened to D-Wade, and I listened to him talk about fatigue. You could tell they came off of Game 7, and the Spurs were fresh. Sounded like excuses to me, Darnell. They talked about they were tired, they were fatigued. I don't want to hear that from the Miami Heat, from LeBron James. I'm surprised that they were using those excuses instead of giving the Spurs their credit, saying we didn't play well enough. They're blaming it on having to play a Game 7 Monday and being tired and fatigued.
I didn't take it that way, and I kind of felt bad for athletes everywhere when the media jumped on them. And trust me, as a member of the media, I hate when athletes and coaches blame things on the media, basically unnecessarily and just routinely, because it's not always the media's fault. But this time, I really felt bad for the athletes because I didn't feel like they were making excuses. I didn't feel like they were taking credit away from the Spurs. I felt like they were asked a question, and they answered it, and we want them to give us the truth or their honest opinions. And then when they did, we sort of ripped them for giving us the truth and their honest opinion and what really happened. So LeBron admitted he needed a blow, he needed a breather, he got it, and Dwayne Wade said he felt like just looking around, guys were sort of gassed, and I don't think he used that as an excuse. Maybe he did, and I'm just misreading the situation. But I just felt bad the way that a lot of people sort of blew that up and really tried to make that backfire against them. And I really felt bad for those guys in that situation.
So do you think that was the difference? We just saw a fresher Spurs team compared to a Heat team coming off of Game 7. You think as we move through the series and the Heat get their legs back under them, they're gonna play better?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, they had. When was Game 7? What night was Game 7?
Monday. That Monday they had 72 hours.
So it's not like they're going to have more time to recover from game to game in this series than they did from Game 7 to Game 1. So, I don't buy that. But that was a physical series that they played with the Pacers. But I just think the Spurs are a more mentally tough team. I think they execute better against another high-level team. And for all these reasons, I mentioned the other day, I felt like the Spurs could actually take this series. Not to mention, Dwayne Wade's not healthy. Chris Bosh is not playing like the all-star that he is capable of playing like. And I think the Spurs just execute better.
I agree with that. No turnovers in the fourth quarter for them. Tony Parker, we'll get to him in a second. 11 points in that fourth quarter of his 21. No turnovers on the entire night. I guess I would just say, as a former athlete, you get tired, Darnell. I mean, I've been tired. I've been dog-tired. But I can't ever remember a time that I can even remember anybody I played with that went there. Everybody gets tired, and everyone knows that. But, I mean, you kind of throw your coach under the bus, that you're not in good enough condition to be out there. I don't ever remember a time that, you're tired. The media knows you're tired, but you don't blame it on that. I don't think that you ever look to, if you say I'm tired, what is that really saying? I'm not in good enough shape. I'm not well-conditioned enough of an athlete because, like you just said, there's a 3-day turnaround again. So what? In the fourth quarter, if San Antonio outplays them, if they have lapses, they're going to say again, well, we were just fatigued. We played 3 nights ago. We were just tired.
Right, and I get your point, and that's one of the things that you probably shouldn't say. My point is just this. We ask them all the time. We want them to be honest. We want athletes to share their true feelings. And then they shared it. They told us what really happened, and then we get down on them. So you shouldn't have said it. I agree with you there. You don't say it. But, if the media, and I'm speaking as a member of the media, we
should
can't
be thankful that he gave us something to talk about today,
exactly.
is what you're saying, right?
That double standard.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. What do you think of Tim Duncan's play? Hits that big shot. Struggled a little bit early, but hits that big shot going into halftime, and then down the stretch was just really good defensively, getting to hit the big free throws there late. I mean, another good game by Tim Duncan.
Yeah, you mentioned that he got off to that slow start, and I think that was that rust versus rest factor we talked about. You saw that he didn't really have his legs, his rhythm. He just didn't have his timing. So he missed his first 5 shots, but then he got that layup to get him going. And he really turned it around from there. He was 24 and 10. I think he finished with something like that. Might have been 14 rebounds he had. I forget. But the guy is just incredible to do what he's doing at 37 years old. I think he's the key to the series, guys. And obviously, Tony Parker's going to have his way. But if they can't limit Tim Duncan, they're going to struggle because everybody kept saying the Spurs are not the Pacers. They don't have Roy Hibbert and David West. And I kept thinking they got better than Roy Hibbert and David West. They got Tim Duncan. So, we saw vintage Tim Duncan, aside from the slow start. I mean, the guy just is effective, and as the game goes along, he gets better and better. He's stepping up. He's making his free throws now. There was a stretch in his career where he wasn't a very good free throw shooter. So he's got the keys to this series because you know what you're going to get from Tony Parker. I feel like if Tim Duncan can give you this night in and night out, and if the role players can make shots from the perimeter, the Danny Greens, the Kawhi Leonards, the Gary Mills, they can make their three-point shots, Spurs are going to win this series.
Tim Duncan, 20 points, 14 rebounds, also chipped in 4 assists, 3 block shots, getting it done in every aspect of the game. And, oh, by the way, the 37-year-old becomes the first person since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to go for 20 and 14 at the age of 37 in the NBA Finals. This is Thunder Cover with NewsOK.com and the Oklahomans. Darnell Mayberry. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard right there. And, Kawhi Leonard, he's got the task of guarding LeBron James. LeBron just 18 points in last night's contest. I know he messed around and had a triple-double, went for 18, 18, and 10. But you got to give a lot of credit to Kawhi Leonard, that length, his ability to keep LeBron James out of the paint. When Kawhi Leonard defending LeBron, the average shot from the basket, about 16.8 feet. So he did a great job of not letting him get inside into the painted area and really held him to long contested jumpers. Yeah,
Kawhi did a great job. And, it's kind of amazing that you're seeing some of these younger players be able to defend LeBron, and the first thought that came to my mind is, why can't Kevin Durant do this as well as Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have been able to do in these last two series? Paul George obviously still gave up a huge numbers to LeBron, but I thought he was effective, and at least tried his best to slow him down. So no knock on Kevin Durant, but everyone's looking for this LeBron. I'm not trying to turn this into a discussion about the Thunder, but Thunder fans are looking for the LeBron stopper. Who's going to guard LeBron? Well, that needs to be Kevin Durant, and at some point he's got to take it upon himself to try to do his best to defend LeBron. I know he got in a lot of foul trouble last year in the finals, but he's got to be able to be that LeBron stopper, and Kawhi Leonard did a great job of really bodying him in the post, and I think the Spurs did a great job of playing on the string. They didn't come immediately with a double because LeBron's good enough and big enough. He's just going to see over the top of your defense and fire out to the open shooters. But as soon as he put the ball on the floor and made his move, the Spurs really just doubled down and clamped down on him. They collapsed on him and made his passes tough, and they made his shots tough. So I think they did a great job individually by Kawhi and collectively the whole Spurs defense.
Yeah, I agree. And there's another guy out there who definitely thinks that he's not unstoppable, and that's Dennis Rodman, who says that if LeBron would have played in the 80s or early 90s, he would have been an average player. What'd you think of those statements made by Dennis Rodman?
It's the first I heard of it, but it sounds like old man sour grapes to me. I mean, there's nobody out there that doesn't believe LeBron James would be a dominant player in the 80s and 90s. I mean, we all can see how big, how strong, how quick, how skilled he is. He has it all. He has everything he needs to be successful, and that's not even really worth much discussion because we all know LeBron James is one of the greatest players to ever play this game.
Totally agree. Okay, so what's Eric Spoelstra, what's this Miami Heat team going back as they look at this film, Darnell? Break it down for me. What do they have to do better to get Game 2 a must-win game for them on Sunday afternoon?
Man, there's so many things, but the Heat played a pretty good game, but they didn't play a great game, and the fourth quarter was terrible for them. So there's so many things that they can do better to try to get themselves an advantage going into Sunday night's Game 2. They got to get to the free throw line. I think they only attempted 17 free throws. They got to take care of the ball. The 5 fourth-quarter turnovers are way too many. They gave up way too many second-chance points. They got to find a way to corral some rebounds, which that might not change because they're just not a good rebounding team. And then the mental mistakes. I mean, they took ill-advised shots, the Chris Bosh three-pointers, LeBron James settling for jump shots instead of getting to the lane. All of those things, they've got to be able to do better. They got to force more turnovers. They can't. You mentioned the Spurs 4 turnovers. They can't just plod along in this series expecting to win it by only forcing 4 turnovers. So they got to get some turnovers and get out in transition and score because that's not what they did in the second half. The first half they were great at it. The second half they weren't any good at it, and you saw them struggle more offensively. So they've got a lot of different areas that they can clean up. Now, with that being said, there's a reason that they struggled in so many of those areas in the second half, and that reason is the San Antonio Spurs. So they've got to be at the top of their game, and if both teams are playing at the top of their game, it's going to be a heck of a game on Sunday because it's going to come down to the last minute, 2 minutes again like it did last night. So I expect a great game, a much better game out of the Miami Heat.
No, yeah, I do too, but at the same time, what are the Heat going to do if the Spurs hit some of those open looks they had? They didn't shoot the ball very well from the field either.
No, they didn't.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Like I said, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, Gary Neal, all those guys, Tim Duncan comes out, goes 0 for 5. If those guys start making shots, look out. This could easily be 2-0 San Antonio going back to Miami.
Hey, Darnell, if San Antonio is able to win this series, is that the signature play of Tony Parker's career that we saw last night with 5 seconds left? Just an unbelievable – that was like an and one Harlem Globetrotter mixtape type of move.
Yeah, because it was in the finals and because it came against LeBron James, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, I think you have to say so.
Heat get Game 2 back in Miami?
Yeah, I go with the Heat. I don't think they can let those games slip away. I think it goes back to San Antonio tied at 1 game apiece.
I agree, man. Hey, you have a great weekend. Always a pleasure. That's Darnell Mayberry of newsok.com. and the Oklahoman, and that is Thunder Cover. Always enjoy hanging out, talking hoops with Darnell Mayberry.